Let's see how long how many people show up and what we can cover in an hour or so, and then maybe I'll do another one here in a little bit. An hour or so, and then maybe I'll do another one here in a little bit. An hour. Turn off my volume. I don't need to hear myself. Let's see. What's going on? So I've got both my phone to do the app and I've got a Kestrel here. So probably start with the app and see how far we get, and then maybe see if we need to come back and do the Kestrel for number two. But I'm going to give it a couple minutes before I get started. We're going to be working off of the Applied Ballistics app. So if you don't have it, download it now. It is the one that's $29.99, I think. That's the one I teach for classes. Basically says AB Mobile. I don't know if you can actually see it. It's that one right over there in the corner. The A with the blue. Dan, what's going on? I'm going to give it a couple minutes for people to show up. So that way, this is kind of going to be one of those things where if people jump in late, they're going to be a bit behind the power curve, and we're never going to get through it if I repeat myself. So I'm going to give it a pregnant pause. Let's see, 3 guys. I mean, I just posted the link, so, but I said I was going to do it today. I said I was going to do it right now. So we're going to do the damn thing. Give it one more minute. God, this room is a shit show. You guys can't see, I'm surrounded by shit. Shit. Tons of shit. I don't know how many fucking helmets and bullshit I have in here. Anyways. All right. Well, I said I was going to give it a few minutes. That is a few minutes. So I'll talk through this. I've basically given them many times. You guys can follow along if you have it. If you guys have questions, you can, the Kestrel, so the Kestrel link app, that's that black one down in the corner, that Kestrel link right down here, that black one, is set up very similarly, but you're not going to get all the features of the app. So if you, I mean, dude, if it's $29, if you can't afford $29, I'll go to the Kestrel instead. If you have the Kestrel app, I'd prefer to do the app first because it is set up the same way as the Kestrel, whereas the Kestrel is not set up and as user intuitive as the app is, and not everybody on the Patreon has a Kestrel yet. So if I'm going to post this, I'd rather start on the app and then do a cleanup on the Kestrel, considering I do way more scope carbine than I do precision rifle, because you guys have more AR-15s. So we're going to start with the app, $29.99, AB Mobile, and we'll start working through this bitch. So if you guys are good, all 5 of you, I will start. So what you guys are going to do is you guys are going to open up the app. Sometimes it'll ask you if you need an update. All it's doing is updating ballistic profiles from Applied Ballistics. When you guys open up, you guys are going to see a screen that looks like that, but without all those guns. But you're going to see that little plus sign and the box with the arrow in the upper right-hand corner. So we're going to go over the preferences first, because ballistic apps are one of those things where It's quality of information in equals quality of information out. And so if you have an A B, sorry, my fucking Loctite was falling over. If you have an A B uh, laser rangefinder and you have an A B Kestrel and you have an A B app, and you say that the three of them aren't jiving, it's the same calculation, which means that there's a setting that is different. You have spin drift on one and off on two of them. You have aerodynamic jump on one of them and off on two of them. You have like environmentals locked. You have environmentals unlocked. You haven't updated your environmentals, or you still have it on the default, which so that way you don't have to buy them again. Sign in. If you sign in to Applied Ballistics, and what it allows you to do is it allows you to back up all your profiles on their servers. And so basically you can access them and cross-deck them between apps. And so if you have it like I have it on my tablet, and I also have it on my phone, and I can put it on somebody else's and sign in, and I can have my access to my profiles. If you go underneath preferences, now you can get into a bunch of stuff that's actually really important. So operation mode, we're just going to leave it. It should be in advanced. You should not have it on normal. Color scheme is just dark or light if you want a white background or black. Firearm sorting order, basically it just gives you a bunch of options like alphabetical, reverse alphabetical, newest to oldest, oldest to newest. So on that page that has all those profiles, that I had all those profiles, you guys don't have shit yet. When you guys are saving guns, you just telling you what order you want them to save in. Enable save targets. Basically, you can build target cards, and if you back out past that screen and come back in, it'll reset to a default. If you enable save targets, it'll always give you those targets. So if you were doing something for a range day and you were shooting the same range with multiple guns and you were bouncing between profiles, you could then save targets and then rotate between the targets. Distance units, that's if you want yards or meters. I tend to work in yards. Atmospheric units, we're just going to leave that. Other units, same, we're just going to leave that alone. Enable automatic units. Nope, that's just going to basically change it. If you're in the US, it'll be standard. If you're in Europe, it'll be metric. Just fucking leave it alone. Wind angle and lead angle. Basically, all that is if you talk in clock directions more than degrees or vice versa, you can just pick. Use DA, yes. Automatic latitude is be for Coriolis. I don't use Coriolis for any of the shooting I do. I don't use an app for even if I did do ELR, I'd be using something. I'd be using a Kestrel. Save last environment. That's basically the same thing. So if you go to the environment card, you'll see it in a couple screens after we start building again. If you back out of it and go back into it, it resets the environment, the direction you're shooting. Hold on, guys. I'm just going through different now. Spin drift is basically a known, and so what it does is it spin drift. Basically, a right-hand spinning bullet is going to climb the air caused by imperfections on the surface of the bullet. If you guys have never heard what spin drift is, and so a right-hand spinning bullet is going to drift right. It just happens. 500 and in, you're basically under a tenth of change, but you are going to see spin drift at distance. And so what you're going to find is that you have to add or subtract a certain number. It's just easier to turn that off and then know, because what happens is if you put on wind and you put it from 9 miles an hour or from 3 o'clock and you're a right hand spin already, it's going to give you less wind. What it means is it's going to take off that 0.3. If you turn it, but if I just use 3 o'clock as a full value wind and apply it to 3 or 9 o'clock, I can basically know that I'm going to need more going one way than I am the other by whatever my spin drift is for that caliber, which is it's not wind dependent. It is what it is at 1,000 yards. And so for most guns like a 6.5 or a 308, you're going to be about 0.3 a spin drift at 1,000 yards. And so you can just know that you need less with a right hand wind and you need more with a left. HUD step size. So you guys will see there's a heads up display feature within the app. The HUD step size is going to be basically if you want it to jump by like 1 yard, 5 yards, 10 yards, 25 yards, whatever, I don't use the HUD a whole bunch. I'll show you guys how to use it. I just don't tend to use it. I use a range card. Um, but I would definitely not have it be 1 because it takes fucking forever. 5 yards, 10 yards maybe, and then just leave it alone. Okay, so hide linear path. Linear path is going to basically be the path in inches. And what it does is it shows it both in drop and wind. It's really helpful. Oh, yeah, dude. Sorry, I just saw your thing about Veracity's workbench. Linear path is really helpful when working with red dots, especially red dots and magnifiers, because it'll give you drop in inches and it'll also give you max ord. Because what it is, it's linear path in comparison to your point of aim. And so if you have a 25-yard zero, it's going to give you at all the distances how high over the dot you are and then how low under the dot you are. So it's basically it's a range card in inches to whatever your zero is. And so I use that all the time for red dot classes. Now, it adds 2 columns to your range card, which confuses a lot of people. So if you're only doing scope stuff, like long precision rifle or whatever, I tend to turn it off. But if I'm jumping back in to scope carbine, I turn it on. I tend to leave it on because I spend so much time in that range card. It doesn't really confuse me, but it confuses a lot of students. So that's where you would turn that off and it would get rid of those columns in your range card. Range step size. So this is the same thing. So in your range card, if you put 1 yard, it's going to give you 1,000 inputs in your range card out to 1,000 yards. If you put 5 yards or 50 yards, you're going to have, whatever, 20. If you put every 100 yards, you're going to have 10. So range step size is how many increments you want in your range card. Sorting distance at subtensions. So there's basically a reticle feature in here. They'll give you like a hold card. And what that's asking is if you want the reticle every or the distance at every subtension. I tend to want every 100 yards or every 50 yards in my range card. So I don't do distances at subtensions. It just on certain reticles it gets really busy. And that's basically the preferences, but there's some important stuff in there that if you fuck up, then you're not going to have the right information. So now, see, this is my screen. I'll get it so it doesn't. You can store all kinds of guns in here. I've got a lot of them. And so basically you can build a profile for every gun, and then you build a profile underneath that gun for every ammo that you're using. So what we're going to do is we're going to go up in the upper right-hand corner. You're going to see a plus sign right there. We're going to push that plus sign, and it's going to come open with a screen that looks like this. Name, barrel twist, twist direction, sight height, sight offset, reticle, etc. And so for the sake of this, just pick a gun. Again, you shouldn't feel super scared to modify these things. So we can build one of your gun profiles because you can always go back in and modify it. So for right now, pick any one of your guns. I don't care what it is and name it. So this doesn't have anything to do with the ammo. This is just the gun because we're going to pick the ammo next. So it can just be Bergara 308, Seagans SP10M, AIAW 308, whatever it is, title it. And then we're going to work through what all these things are. So barrel twist, if you are like a 6.5, you're probably like a 1 in 7.5. If you're a 308, you're probably 1 in 10 for most modern guns. I do 1 in 8s. If you're one of the older guns, it's probably 1 in 11.5, 1 in 12. If you're a 6mm, you're probably 1 in 7. Honestly, just pick one of them. And then again, we can always go back and change this. It's not a big deal. Twist direction, you're probably right. 99% of guns in the US are right-hand twist. Sight height. So sight height's a big thing that people fuck up, especially if you haven't had a class before. What sight height is it's the distance between the center of the optic and the center of your bore. It gives no fucks about your riser height. This is what am I looking through and where's the bullet coming from? Like this thing doesn't know that you're running an AR, an MCX, a FAL, a AI, a Bergara, a fucking hit, Sig Cross, doesn't know. It doesn't know. So all it cares about is where is the center of the optic to the center of your bore. And so most bolt guns will be like 1.5, 1.75, 2-ish if it's starting to get pretty tall. Most AR-15 will be about 2.5. If you have a really high riser, like my MCX was actually 4, but the MCX is a little bit higher pick rail, so it's 4-inch optic height. That's really important. So you guys are running a bolt gun, pick like 1.5. You can always come back and change it again. Sight offset. What that is basically if I was running a 12 o'clock dot, but offset, you could measure the offset left or right, and negative would be left, positive would be right from over the bore line. And it's going to measure, it's going to adjust for you being offset of the bore. Reticle, this is the reticle they're going to pick up, they're going to use during the heads-up display. So literally you guys can pick, there's not going to be every reticle in here. There's just going to be a selection of options. If you guys are using anything like MilXT or EBR7 from Vortex or any of those, just pick something like the Bushnell G2. It's at the bottom. The H59. The what else is in here? Any of those. There isn't a crap ton of reticles. You are going to be first focal plane. If you're not, get a first focal plane. Don't be second focal plane. If you're second focal plane, I will do a whole other class on that because I don't know what I'm talking about right now. Hopefully you guys are all mils if you follow me. So you're going to go mils, probably 1/10 adjustment, mils windage, 1/10 adjustments, mils. So that's at the bottom. Let's see if I can get it to, yep, down there. See how it says elevation, turret gradient, mils, 1/10 mils, 1/10 mils. So that means that it's going to give track true. So a mil at 100 yards would be 3.6 inches. 3.6 inches times 10 be 36 inches. That means that's a yard. If you drew 36 inches up and every 3.6 inches you did a line and you put that was perfectly vertical, and you put a dot at the bottom and you shot a 3-shot group, dialed up a mil, and you just kept doing up a mil for 10 mils, so 30 shots, or even do 3 mils at a time, do whatever, 3 of them, 4 of them, and you go all the way to 10 mils, then you could divide that. If you weren't actually at the perfect spot of 36 inches, you could divide however far you were from 36, and it would give you a correction factor. You would put in the correction factor. By saying 1, you're saying that your scope tracks 100%. It's 1 for 1. If you put like 0.97 or 0.96 because it didn't actually hit 36 inches, then what it's going to do is it's going to adjust all your dope, knowing that your scope doesn't track it exactly. And so when it gives you stuff to dial, it's going to make the correction based off the fact that your scope loses mils as a dials. So that's what that's there for. Once you're done, you're then going to have, you push done. And now on that main page, you're then going to have a profile. So it's going to have something on that page. Okay. So now if we click on it, like I'll just use my AIAT. So you click on it, it's going to bring open a screen. That screen for me, because I just built the profile, is blank. But again, it has that plus sign in the upper right-hand corner. So if you hit that plus sign, now we're going to go from, it says manually or from bullet library. Most likely the bullet you're shooting is probably in the library. So we're going to go from bullet library. I'm doing a 308. If you guys are doing a like a 260, you guys would look under 264. If you guys are doing something like 243, would be 6 mil, 338, whatever. I'm going to do 308. I'm going to do for a Sierra 175. So I'm going to do Sierra. I'm doing a 175 Match King. There we go. And that's going to bring open a screen that says Sierra Match King 308, 175, bullet length. That gun's right about, it says muzzle velocity from that 16-inch for me is about 2,500 feet per second. Velocity and powder temp. So basically what that is as you zero this and you put in that you have 0 atmosphere and you tell it what your altitude and temperature is for zeroing, and when you true, and if you came back and trued again, it's going to start giving you a muzzle velocity temp table. But basically for this app, it's going to give you how many feet per second your powder adjusts your velocity for each degree of temperature. And so it can give you a temperature adjustable velocity based off the fact that powders burn at different rates depending how hot or cold it is. And so if the powder is 50 degrees, it burns at a slower rate than if the powder is 97 degrees. So that will actually adjust for it. Right now, if you guys were just building this and going to go 0, you don't really have to worry about it. Drag model, we always want to use G7 if given the option. If you guys wanted to purchase CDMs, so basically Brian Litz takes his Doppler to all these matches, and you can actually shoot your gun and your load over his Doppler, and then he'll give you a custom drag model. I'm kind of breezing through some of these concepts. If you've never heard some of them, you need to get some ballistics tune up because this would end up being a 3-hour live. So 0 range, we're going to stick with 100 yards, 0 height, and 0 offset. So what those are is if I zeroed a gun, let's say I had a LPVO and I zeroed it for 77s because that's what I wanted to shoot most of the time. But let's say I wanted to train with 55 grain because it was cheap. What you could do is you could honestly zero a 77s, and then you could go in here and you'd shoot your 55 grain at 100 yards and see what the difference is. So where does it shift and how much? Does it go high, left, right, whatever? And so you can put in what the 0 offset is, and then it will adjust your range card based off the fact that it's offset. Personally, what I would do is I would understand I might build a profile like that and put vertical offset, but I'm going to dial the windage. And so I will just take the windage off because I'm going to hold wind anyways. And if I know that I'm 0.2 right or 0.3 right, I'm going to dial 0.4 left or 0.3 left. And then I'm just going to leave the elevation alone and use my data card. And then the holds are all just going to be slightly adjusted. Your 0 is probably going to be whatever, negative 0.2 or positive 0.2. And then whatever you need. But that's what that 0 is. It's basically, so if you have different bullets, so because again, if I save this ammo and then I go save a 155 and then I go save a 172 and I go save a 169, like I'm going to have all these, not all of them are going to be zeroed. Like if I zero with 175s and I want to go shoot 168s, I have to know what the offset is. So that's what those are for. And then if you were zeroing, you would enable 0 atmosphere and adjust that to what you zeroed in so that if you came back and it was hotter or colder when you trued, it's going to adjust. So when you're done with that, you're just going to push done. Now on that same page that we had nothing there before, we are now going to have a profile that says Scratch King. You guys still hear me? Not getting any comments. Maybe you guys just listen to me talk. Got a couple more people in here, 6 people. Give me a thumbs up just so I know I didn't lose you guys, or you guys can actually hear me. Okay, cool. Thanks. So now, if you go back, push the back button, right? So I'm going to show you guys. So on that main, we're back at the gun, right? So if we take one of those gun profiles and you scroll left, swipe left on it, it's going to give you like edit and delete. So what I was saying is if you guys want to go in and modify one of these profiles, let's say you built a profile right now and you're like, I don't know what my optic height is. So that's fine. You push edit and it'll take you back into that page. And now you can change what your sight height is. If you guessed at a twist rate, whatever, you can change that. That's really important to know because this is what I use to answer all those stupid internet questions about like optic heights and zeros. Is you guys could build a profile in here. Now it's math. You guys can answer your own question using math, and make it that hey, I'm doing a 25-yard zero, a 36-yard zero, a 50-yard zero, a 100-yard zero, and you're going to be able to see using fucking math answering these stupid questions on the internet. So big plus. Once you're done, then it takes you back out. Click on that profile again. Now that ammo profile will still be there. Same thing. You can swipe left and go more, and if you can go edit, and you can change it again. So if you just guessed at a muzzle velocity and you're like, I don't know if that's my real muzzle velocity, you can go in and change it. The other thing it lets you do is duplicate. And so a lot of guys like this. So if you have a real profile that you don't want to fuck with, but you want to mess with one and seek and change things, velocity, whatever. If you want to mess with a profile, you can duplicate. And what it'll do is it'll make Sierra Match King and it'll make Sierra Match King. And so you can fuck with one, and even if you fuck it up beyond all recognition, your other one will still be okay. And so you can just clone your profile. If you're good, we're back on the ammo page. Push on Sierra Match King, and now it's going to come up with a page that looks like this. Load target, distance, look angle, mover speed, mover angle, load station atmosphere, et cetera, et cetera. So upper right-hand corner, you guys are going to see a little like reticle, eotactical with the dot. Click on that. This is your HUD. And so this is where using that ballistic profile, it's like single target engagement. So you can go range up or down. This is where we change like the HUD step size. You can up or down, and it's going to change by whatever you set. If you set 1 yard, you're going to be sitting there for a while. If you hold it, it will go faster. Wind, you could plus or minus, and direction, you could plus or minus. If you go in the upper right-hand corner and it says plus sign, this is a good place to get the range calculation. This will do like the actual mil calculations for you. So if you click on that, it says target size in inches. So if you know you have a 20-inch target, what you milled it at, it might say MOA right now. If you just click on MOA, you can change it to mils. And then you can mill targets up there. Also, it has a look angle up there, so you guys can actually, it'll let you click on that, it'll start giving you a counter. So see how that's 0 degrees, 30 degrees. You can actually use the edge of the phone to give you a look angle. Lead controls just basically changes on that HUD. It changes it from wind in the middle to lead, so you can change the mover speed. Don't really do it a whole bunch. And then ballistic calibration just basically makes it so that you can true in that screen if you like that screen more than the range card. I tend to use the range card more, but a lot of guys will sit with this next to them and they'll just plus between targets. So if you like to use the HUD more, you can do that. The other thing is you don't have to push the plus. If you just push on any of those numbers, like the range, you can just, it pops up and you can edit it long form and it'll give you the numbers to input. So you can do it that way too if that's faster. If you back out of the HUD, in the upper right-hand corner, you're going to see an arc. That's going to be your range card. Back out of that because we're going to talk through all these target things. So on the target screen, which is this one, it should say distance. Distance is going to be single target engagement, but what it's also going to be is the farthest distance that your range card goes to. So if you have 500 yards right there, your range card's only going to go to 500 yards. Look angle, right now we're going to do 0. Mover speed doesn't matter. Mover angle doesn't matter. Load station atmosphere. So if you were pulling, like your buddy has a Kestrel and he can give you live data, then you can hand jam it. You can put it in there, your DA and temperature and all that stuff. Or if you go load station atmosphere, it's going to pull the weather from, let me talk about that in a sec. It's going to pull the weather from the closest weather station. He's asking about Kestrels. If you're hand jamming it, then it doesn't matter. The wind speed. This is one of those things where what they're going to do, though, is they're going to give you wind speed and angle based off of true north. And so even if you pull the local station atmosphere, which my DA right now is negative 242. I'm not negative 242 feet. But the wind angle is going to be based off true north. But what we wanted is based off of the direction of fire. And so what I usually do is if I want it from 90 degrees, and I want, let's call it a base wind of 5, then I just go 5 miles an hour, 90 degrees. And then barrel twist and twist rate and all that shit is, you're just going to leave that alone on the bottom. Oh yeah, no, I know. It's the same thing as Kestrels. The problem is what a lot of guys do is they leave their Kestrels on update, and they set their Kestrel next to their gun on a hot shooting mat, and then it shows 30 degrees hotter than it actually is. That's always fun. Um, I know you know I know. How about that? Uh, so uh, now after you've done all that, you got to do the range card. You guys can go to upper right hand corner and click that little arc, and then it's going to come up with your actual range card. Okay. And so in the range card, you're going to see on the left hand side, it's going to be range in yards, path in inches, path in mils, drift in inches, drift in mils, velocity. So that's remaining velocity of the bullet. And then feet per second, and then foot pounds of energy and time of flight. So I did every 50 yards. So mine almost fits in. I got 1,200 yards in here. Mine almost fits in one screen of my iPhone. If you guys go on the top, you guys will see table. It'll say reticle. Whatever reticle you just picked is now going to show up, and it's going to show a range card. And there's going to be a dot of where the hold would be. If you guys see how it's at an angle, that's because we put wind in. If you took the wind out, then it's going to take all those holds and it's going to shift it back over that vertical crosshair. The graph is, I don't use the graph for anything. But go back to the table. So this is where I was telling you how it says path in inches. So if you guys look at 0, it says negative 1.5. That means that that bullet is 1.5 inches low, because that's our optic height. And then at 50, you're 0.1 inches low. And then at 100, you're 0.2. Like, well, I thought you told it you're at 100. You're like, yeah, I did. But if I go, well, I also told it that I have wind. It's correcting for aerodynamic jump. So if I go back out now and I take that wind off, weird. Now when I go back in there, 100 yards is back at 0. So aerodynamic jump's the thing. Understand what it does. But that's it. So that's why I use that path in inches. So if you took that hide linear path and you highlighted that back in the preferences, then it would get rid of that path in inches there and the drift in inches, which is the 4th column over. And it cleans up that range card. It makes it so the columns are bigger and so is the text. So if you don't need it, you don't use it for anything, then get rid of it. Anything more important than this? Oh, upper right-hand corner, at plus sign. If you guys wanted to show, like, if you had a mover on there, like you guys had a 300 and a 500-yard mover, you put show lead. It's going to get rid of the wind column and replace it with your lead column. Ballistic calibration is where we true from. So this is where you're going to true. And that send button is if you wanted to share this profile either to an email or text it to somebody, and it'll send this range card. Ballistic calibration, if you open it up, and it's going to give you range 1, 2, and 3. Range 1 is going to be your velocity true. Range 2 is going to be your drag scale factor true. Range 3 is going to be your subsonic true, or well into subsonic. It's about 200 yards, about 200 to 300 yards past number 2, which is usually about 10% into sub. So this gives you the goals of where you should be between 690 and 773 for this 308 that I'm using, or for whatever. And so what you do on here is you always have to have the first number if you're going to have the second and the third. So if I only had 700 yards and I wanted to get a quick one, then you only put 700 yards and you put it in the range 1. You would then go shoot at whatever that distance is with what the range card told you. You would dial until you were hitting across a water line or a spray painted line, or, exactly what, your bullets are impacting. I'm aiming here. My bullets are impacting there horizontally. Windage, I don't give a fuck. Once you have that, then you're going to look up at your turret and you're going to tell it what you hit with. And it's going to adjust your muzzle velocity based off of what you told it, because the bullet doesn't lie. So can you true a shorter distance? Yes. So basically on the app, what a true distance is, so you basically have supersonic flight then you have transonic flight, and you have subsonic flight. So supersonic flight is we want to be about 10%, 10 to 20% pre-trans to true velocity. And so that's what that distance is doing. It's finding out where you're going to pass through transonic. The transonic barrier makes bullets do weird shit. We want to stay at, that's why I posted that fucking picture that said, stay the fuck out of trans. It's not just a Portland joke. You want to stay the fuck out of transonic with what you're using as information, because bullets do funky shit in transonic in the transition. So some bullets handle sub better than others, but transonic is super hard to predict. And so if I only had 500 yards, yeah, you could use it. It's just not going to be as good of a predictor or predictive model as something closer to that 80 to 90% of trans. And so I don't want to use like 200 or 300. You're just not going to get that much information out of it. But if you have 400 or 500, 600, and that's what you got, yeah, you just don't want to be much farther past it for that first number, because it gets you too close to transonic. And then on number 2, you just don't want to be that much before it. You can be after it a little bit. You just don't want to be before it. Yes, as close to the listed distances as possible. So that's basically the app, guys. And then, you know, modifications of that, you can put in as much memory as you have in your phone. You can store profiles. They don't take up anything. And then basically you can do as many bullets as you want for every gun. So that's why I have like 30 fucking guns in there. The Kestrel app is set up very similar to at least building the gun to the phone. So building the gun will be exactly the same. You're going to see it, but it's just less information. But with a Kestrel, you have to name the gun profile, the gun, and the bullet you're shooting, because it doesn't differentiate. The app does, the Kestrel doesn't. So, excuse me. So you can't really go into the Kestrel and go, I'm shooting my whatever AR-10, and now I'm shooting 168s, 175s. There's different profiles for every one of those bullets, and so you have to build it like AIAW 175 SMK, GAP 65 CM 140, ELDM, whatever makes it so you remember what gun and what profile. But being 40 minutes, I definitely don't want to talk for another 45 or to an hour. So I'm going to keep this shorter. If you guys have some questions real quick, I'll answer about 5 or 10 minutes of questions. But what I'll do is I'll post this. If you guys want to watch the app portion, I'll leave this up. It'll help you guys get through the AB app, which is a great tool. And then what we can do is I can come back after Reno. I'm leaving in about a week. In about 2 weeks, I'll do another one with the Kestrel, and we'll build some profiles in the Kestrel, and I'll do this all over again using that. And maybe this will be a good precursor that I can send to students and stuff, at least to get them familiarized with the app. Do you guys got any questions or anything? I know there's 5 of you guys here right now, but about the app in general. I'll do the Kestrel next time. Where did I put them? There they are. Oh, my Kestrel box. Let's see. Anything? Hopefully this helps some of you guys. I wanted to do something a little different than just answering the same questions, considering there's about 200 of you, and most of you guys have been following me for a while. So the same questions seem to have been answered for most of you. Nothing? All right. Oh, I see. Dude, I use the app a lot. Question is maybe for round 2, use with binos. You want to do using the Applied Ballistics app for the few bino? The owner's manual for those are actually pretty good. That'd be really hard Oh, so 5700 versus the Elite. That's good. So the 5700, all it comes down to is as long as it's a Bluetooth model, Kestrel, it's the same hardware. It's the software inside that's different. And what's different is how many guns that can hold, how many target cards it can hold. And so the everything but the X. The X has a different processor. And from Kestrel Direct, she told me that basically 99.999% of shooters don't need the X. That was specifically for a certain contracts. It's the processor speed between what it's connected to. But basically, everybody else, the Elite's kind of the way to go. Now, a thing to know though is if you can't get into the Elite because it's just outside your price range right now. Even using Bruiser 15 discount code, letting you know. If it's outside your budget right now, you can actually email Kestrel as long as you have a Bluetooth Kestrel, and you can ask them for the software update, and they'll charge you the difference. And what it'll do is when you connect next time to your Kestrel app, which is my phone's right there, the Kestrel app, it'll give you the update, and you can actually upgrade your 5700 Bluetooth link to a 5700 Elite software as long as you buy it. And so as long as you have a Bluetooth Kestrel, a 5700 of some type, then, or whatever the numbers are that are the Bluetooth ones, you can Bluetooth it to your phone and upgrade the software at any time. So they'll just charge you the 150 or 200 bucks for the software update, and then it'll update your older Kestrel. So if you wanted to get into one and you were like, hey man, I really don't know if this is for me, I'm kind of figuring out this long range thing, and an 800 bucks was just like too much, which again, you're going to save like fucking 100 bucks with the discount code. Then do that. It's not my money to spend, it's yours. And but know that you don't have to sell that one to then upgrade to a different one later. You can then just email Kestrel Ballistics and ask them to buy the software, and then they'll ask for your serial number, and then they'll upgrade your serial number. So the next time you download, it's going to update your entire Kestrel, and it's going to download the Kestrel update, and then you'll have the Elite, which has like the applied ballistics section and more target cards. The target cards are cool because if you get the HUD, which is that heads-up display that folds on your, you can basically pre-stage every stage of a match in your Kestrel. And then as you scroll from stage to stage, you can just go between the target cards, and it's going to automatically populate the dope for every stage you've already built in your Kestrel. So that's kind of a cool feature. So anyways, that's what it does. And it allows you to hold more guns and does some other stuff. So the and the Kestrel website has a good breakdown of that. No, it seems pairing Kestrel with binos pin feature. Oh, restating curious actual use cases for using Kestrel data or environmental data. Kestrel, I think, is a better environmental predictor. Because if your binos are decent, the thing is that you don't always, like on admin range, yes, you're going to laze. And for most use cases that we were doing, dude, you weren't spotting on binos. You were spotting on another rifle, and you were shooting off of a range card because targets weren't fixed. And so you had built a range card off of ballistic data. And so you weren't jumping back into your ballistic Kestrels all the time. And now, honestly, now with like these Impact 4000s or the Raptors and stuff, you can get that data right above your scope. And so, sorry, my impacts are sitting right there. I need to mount those two fuckers up. But it's just redundant information. It really depends. That's all personal preference. The Impact does that and has all those features, and so does the Kestrel, and so does the Fury binos. I've literally never put a. I know how to. I mean, I have put profiles in my Furies, but I range so often for students, not myself, that I don't have their profile in my binos, so I never use that feature. Or I'm spotting for another buddy, or I'm building my range card and then just pulling it off my Kestrel because the targets aren't moving. So I don't have to constantly, oh hey, how far is that target, and re-look at it to get a distance because I've already written it down. And so uh, I don't spot with those binos as much because honestly, their binos are okay. They're not great and they're not fast spotting off of. And I've got some binos that are way more clear and better for that, better at seeing trace. The Fury are a great tool. I'm really excited about those electronics ones, though. Those I'm excited to pair of. The new VQ, whatever that's the ones they just came out with this week. But other than that, Ballistic apps. If you have more questions, you guys could comment below on here on this video that's up if you guys are watching this later, or hit me up on Patreon. This is only for you guys. It's going to stay on here. It's not going anywhere else. I appreciate what you guys do. You guys really do help me more than you know. And I'm just trying to make sure that you guys get your money's worth. So hope you guys have a good rest of your night. And I will catch you guys on Patreon probably tomorrow, or maybe later tonight when I'm smoking a cigar. Who knows? I'll see you guys later.